We hope the special lift you get this holiday season lasts all year long. Happy holidays from Eaton Park.
Welcome to The Price is Right. I just kept her out here. I just saw these little outfits the girls are going to be wearing, Santa's helpers outfits, and I just wanted to ask you, isn't this exactly what any red-blooded guy would like to find under his Christmas tree? Thank you.
Mario, what'd you get?
I don't know.
It's an invisible fence for your dog.
It was a dumb joke. I think it was.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel told me to do it.
Well, tell him to suck my balls.
You know what he sees? He sees your husband. Your husband, his little daddy, that is gone and disappeared.
Getting a black belt is not going to bring back Daddy. These are just dreams you're having.
I have a message for you.
You can't be expected to be loyal to everything all at once.
I need you to tell me if my husband is alive or dead.
Dad will be coming home soon, where I prove that I earned my black belt.
That can't be. He disappeared with Whitmore, like seconds after the shooting. That sounded like Bob's voice.
He's stronger than all of us put together.
Bob! Bob!
You know, there are times I'm afraid.
Oh my God. Oh my dear God. Dad! Dad!
You think he's alive?
So we're going to look at a lot of activities connected to this time of year. We'll check out some history and a few traditions.
It's a big tradition just to wait in line.
I don't think Pittsburgh realizes what a treat it is to have this artifact on view every year.
And we're going to call this program Happy Holidays in Pittsburgh.
The following program is an NBC special presentation. Tonight, Mr. T and Emmanuel Lewis star. He's a big guy with a tough little problem.
A kid that doesn't care too much about Christmas.
Mr. T needs some heavyweight magic to fill this tiny Scrooge with the Christmas spirit.
Because I don't want to lose this one.
He's got singing star Maureen McGovern to help.
Sleigh bells ring.
Along with skating superstars Ty Babylonia and Randy Gardner. And famous illusionist David Copperfield.
Wow.
With some real holiday magic. Plus, the Radio City Music Hall Rockettes and many more. No Scrooge could resist all the Christmas spirit.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
It's a holiday special for the kid in all of us. Mr. T and Emmanuel Lewis in A Christmas Dream.
Merry Christmas!
Happy Christmas, Harry.
Happy Christmas, Ron. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Fred.
Merry Christmas, Bob.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas to you, Mama.
Merry Christmas, pal.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas! Welcome to the Christmas Summit Podcast, the official live broadcast of Christmas Aficionado. Tonight, I have one of my favorite Christmas podcasters, Brian Earl of the Christmas Past Podcast. This year, he's celebrating its 10th anniversary. Equal parts nerdy, deep dive, and warm-hearted celebration, Christmas Past delivers holiday cheer with a storytelling style inspired by public radio. Brian's also here to discuss his new book of Christmas... Brian is here to also discuss his new book of Christmases Long, Long Ago, Surprising Traditions from Christmas Past, and we will both share our Essential 7 Christmas traditions. So, with that being said, Brian, welcome to Christmas Aficionado.
Well, thanks very much. Happy to be here.
Like, ooh, thank you. And sorry, my phone was ringing and someone was trying to give me a call. I didn't mute it. Anyways, well, this is your first time being on the show. I'm finally glad to talk to you. You reached out to me earlier this year, said, hey, I really like these videos you're doing. And I replied, hey, I've been listening to you for years. So I'm glad we finally got to connect. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You started the podcast in 2016. That's actually one of the first Christmas podcasts to ever be created. When you started it, what gave you the idea? Was there anybody else at the time? Did you look around?
I didn't start out hoping to begin my own Christmas podcast. I started out looking for a Christmas podcast. So in 2015, right around this time of year, we're recording this in October, it's when I start, getting into the Christmas spirit. And I was listening to a lot of NPR style podcasts at the time, like Planet Money and Freakonomics, that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, I wonder if there's like that, but for Christmas. I wonder if NPR does a Christmas podcast. And so I went searching on what back then used to be called iTunes. I think it's Apple Podcasts now. And then, to my dismay, I found that there were like 4 Christmas podcasts in existence. 2 of them were churches that put out their Christmas sermons in podcast form. There was like a playlist. I think it was like Celtic Christmas music. And then there was this one called The Christmas Stocking by Lee Cameron, which was around for a long time. And I hear it's coming back this year. It's still one of the best ever. But so, my search came up empty. And then I said, well, I suppose I can't be the only one interested in something like that. So maybe I'll try to do that for myself. I'll try to create that very podcast. So the next year, 2016, was the first season of Christmas Past. And, I went into it thinking I'm just going to entertain myself. A Christmas podcast, people are going to care about it for, a few weeks out of the year. Given that there were only 4 when I went searching, it's not exactly like all signs were pointing to the idea that just like tons of people were waiting for a podcast like this to come along. So I just went into it really not having any expectations other than it just seemed like a fun creative project. But here I am now. This is going to be season 10, 2 books later and all of that. It's and then in that time, I for a while was trying to keep track of how many Christmas podcasts there were, and then the number just became like too big to track. I mean, it's hundreds now.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah, and I'm more on YouTube than I am, obviously podcast. But I've been invited to lots of different podcasts and been on them. But you're right. It even when I started thinking about this channel, I was like, well, what's out there? Like I had no clue. And, I found, I was listening to Deck the Hallmark, and then I found Jerry's Totally Red Christmas. And then I discovered yours, and you had more episodes than anybody else. So I was like, oh, great. So I started listening to them. So over the years, what is some of your highlights of your podcast that you can think of, things that you're very proud of?
Well, I think in general, it's really been all the connections that I've made with people over the years. I mean, I get just, this time of year, people start writing to me and saying like, oh, hey, I'm looking forward to the new season and all of that. But I've been doing it for so long now that some of those messages are now like, oh, my kid grew up listening to you and he's going away to college. This is going to be our first year apart. And one of the ways that we're staying connected over the season is by listening to your podcast. And so, on the one hand, it's just very gratifying to hear things like that. But then on the other hand, it reminds me that this has become more than just my little hobby project, right? I sort of, there's a community around it now that, just brings me a lot of joy, but also has a sense of responsibility, right? That there's this thing that is in existence now that I'm part of and sort of have a responsibility to keep going. But yeah, it's really just been all of the wonderful connections that I've met. This is with the people who listen, with the people that I've talked to as guests on the podcast. I mean, some of the most interesting conversations I've had in my adult life have been through the making of the podcast. So yeah, it's really just all the experiences that come with it.
That's great. And so you mentioned the 2 books. Your first book came out in 22, Christmas Past, The Fascinating Stories Behind Our Favorite Holidays Traditions, which talked a little bit about the history of them. And you now are coming out with your new book of Christmases Long, Long Ago, Surprising Traditions from Christmas Past. There's your book right there. So what your first one was obviously your whole podcast is really about Christmas traditions and history of things, and then you wrote your first book. What made you write a second one?
Well, the first book was really I want to say kind of like the book or the podcast in book form. So
Okay.
it was just another way of creating, another way of expressing that same information. And the way that I produce the podcast is very much modeled after, it's meant to sound like NPR. So I'll do interviews with people, then sort of cut them up into clips and weave narration around it and music and all of that. I'm going for a particular style. But then I was like, well, you know, how else can I share this stuff? What would this look like with visuals, with sidebars, with, you know, if I were to rewrite all of this stuff, not for the ear, but to be read, like how would that change the way that all of this feels to consume? So that was really the beginning of the publishing journey for me. I was just, like, let's think of a way that we could, like just reimagine some of the content that I've already been doing over at that time, the last 7 years. And then all along, you know, I'm constantly reading histories of Christmas. And so, you know, over the years, I've amassed this collection of stories of, you know, Christmas traditions that have come and gone. And those are things that I wouldn't really normally cover on the podcast. I mean, I tend to focus on the histories behind your favorite familiar Christmas traditions, looking for the hidden story, the thing that you probably wouldn't have thought. But what about all these traditions that came and went? And you have to think, like, the history of Christmas, the first Christmas was in the 4th century, and Christmas as we know it today is really the product of the 19th century. And so in between is what all of the Christmases, the vast majority of throughout history, have looked very different from the one that we know today. And it's easy enough on the one hand to imagine that Christmas in the distant past must have been different somehow, but how? What exactly was it like? What are the Christmas traditions that came and went? And I thought that's the makings of a book right there, because there are some weird ones. Like Christmas, up until about the 19th century, when we had Santa Claus and the Christmas tree and presents under the tree and all the things that you think about are, when you think about Christmas, are modern additions to the tradition. Before that, it was weird and spooky and rowdy and loud and sometimes violent and sometimes kind of gross. Like there's a lot of history there that I thought would just be a really cool book.
So you actually brought up, that's one of my questions I had. What is the weirdest tradition that you found while writing the book?
I mean, they're all just weird in their own way, but just to name one, there was a Welsh tradition called either holming or holly beating. And holly beating is exactly what it sounds like, where you just beat other people with holly on Christmas Day. And if you've ever looked at a holly leaf, you know like why you wouldn't want that to happen to you, because they're thick and prickly. They can very easily draw blood. The reason that you would do that to someone was either that it was a person in your household who was the last one to wake up on Christmas morning, or it was something that young boys would do. They'd run around the square and, you know, go after the young ladies doing that for God knows why. And thankfully, you know, that was a local tradition. That's another big difference between Christmas then and now. Most traditions were very local, right? Until the advent of mass media, which sort of like allowed ideas to spread more quickly. Most traditions were just these little regional things, and they were able to sort of live and die that way. So this was a Welsh tradition. As far as we know, it never really spread anywhere else. But it died out, I think, sometime in the early 19th century.
That's the way to pick up the ladies. Smack them with a holly leaf. Well, that's fascinating. I have not had a chance to read this book yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Were there any new traditions that you discovered that you've sort of adapted, you may adapted or have adapted into your own Christmas celebration?
Well, one thing that's, and it's not just me, it's really making a comeback, is the idea of a ghost story for Christmas. This was a big Victorian tradition, and of course the most famous example of that is A Christmas Carol. But that's certainly not the only Christmas ghost story, and it's not even the only one Dickens wrote. But, you know, a ghost story for Christmas was kind of a big thing for a long time. And I think A Christmas Carol is different because it's a ghost story for Christmas that also happens to be about Christmas. And it wasn't always that way. Publishers would put out ghost stories for Christmas that were just ghost stories. They didn't necessarily have a Christmas theme. But we're seeing more and more of that. I think there's definitely an appetite for spooky Christmas stuff. We see a lot of Christmas horror movies. There was a Krampus movie recently, and that one with the guy from Stranger Things, where he's, you know, the movie I'm
Violent
talking about?
Night.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And so there's a publisher called Biblioasis that puts out a collection of classic Victorian-style ghost stories, and they come out right around this time of year for the Christmas season, and they're illustrated by this famous illustrator. But that's something that I've sort of added to the podcast, just because I think it's historically interesting and fun. But then that's just sort of become part of my own Christmas tradition as well.
Cool. So when's the podcast coming back?
The first episode will be on Halloween. It used to be before I had a kid and had more time for this, I would start putting out episodes in September. But now I'm going to have to settle for Halloween. And it is a ghost story. I'll tell one of the ghost stories from my friends at Biblioasis that sort of kicks off what I call the preseason, because I do stick to the tradition that the actual full official season starts on Thanksgiving Day and runs through Christmas Day.
Okay. Cool. So we have a few people watching, and if you have a question for Brian, feel free to put it in the chat. I will bring it up. Mark said, love listening to Brian. Can't remember exactly when I first started, but when Jeff first mentioned him on My Merry Christmas. So it's been quite a while. So, yep. And then the collector says, now that's perfect, as I'm in the middle of about to put Christmas decor and tree in my Christmas. Had I opened every year for the not so privileged children of my borough. And then he still follows up. And as Christmas season starts on the 15th of November with them, Poseidon is about to get it together. I'm not sure what that says, but I love you guys. So thanks for watching. And like I said, if you guys have questions, feel free to bring it up, or a comment. Feel free to put that in there in the chat as well. So Brian and I were talking, and I said to Brian, I said, well, let's bring up, I like to discuss something, to get your opinions about things. And I asked him to give me a topic, and he said, I'd love to talk about personal Christmas traditions, or just Christmas traditions, altogether that you like or enjoy. And I said, great. So he put a list together. I put a list together. I have seen the first one only because I accidentally was putting the PDF together and looked at it, but I have not looked at the rest of them. So I'm going to be as surprised as everybody else. But I want to go through and discuss, the traditions that you gave me. Feel free to, elaborate on them, tell the story about them, obviously as personal stories as you want to get into. But your first tradition, and we're doing Essential 7, so we're counting down 7 to 1. Number 7 is the Christmas pageant.
Yeah, so my mom, well, actually her mom, my grandmother, went to a Methodist church, the First United Methodist Church in Stoughton, Massachusetts. And every year they actually put on a Christmas pageant. And it was only later in life I realized that, not everyone does that. Not everyone grows up with that actual tradition. So there are lots and lots of pictures of me from my childhood, because when I think it was 7 months old, I was baby Jesus in that first Christmas pageant. And so there's this picture of this teenage girl who's playing Mary holding me and looking like she, kind of scared to be holding a baby that wasn't hers. But then that was, a big part of my childhood Christmases. But my whole family, I'm one of 5 children. My mom's one of 6 children. It was a very densely populated Christmas. We would all go to the church and watch the pageant. And, at various points throughout our childhoods, we were in it, and then we were watching it. There was one particular time, because one of the things that made this pageant extra special is they brought live animals onto the stage. So there would be, sheep and goats and all of that. And, it's always interesting because you can't really control what animals do on stage. And there was an incident where the stage got a little messy right in the middle of the Christmas pageant. And it was one of those, everyone is trying their best to keep a straight face and remain dignified, but it was what it was. And it made for a story that we retold for many Christmases to come after that.
I am very familiar. My dad was a Methodist minister, so I was constantly being put into the Christmas pageant, whether I wanted to or not. I always requested to be a shepherd because it's just the easiest thing to do. You just stand there. So, that was great. I didn't want to do any of the other stuff, but, I probably was Joseph at one point. I probably was a king at one point. We did not have live animals in our church. That would have, I don't think that would have worked out too well. However, I do believe like the little kids portrayed, like the sheep and everything like that. I kind of remember that. No, that's definitely a memory for a lot of people. And I think if one relieves itself on the stage in the middle of that, it can be not only funny, but also probably pretty smelly as well, I would imagine. So we got a question here. So Mark wants to know, I get in trouble at work for playing Christmas music at work. Brian and Joe, do you listen to Christmas music all year round or just for the holidays? Brian?
Not all year round. I think there was a time where I did and then realized I think I have to scale back or else it'll be too much of a good thing. But definitely between September and December.
So I'm if I'm in the mood for it, I'll put it on. I don't necessarily seek it out, even through like the Christmas season. I'm not sure. I don't listen to as much music as I probably should. I probably have the TV on more than anything else. But when I do listen to Christmas music, I really enjoy instrumental, especially if I'm working, because if it's got lyrics, I'm going to sing. Or I'm going to pay attention to the song. If it's instrumental, I can work with that as background noise. So that's usually how I work. So
throughout the day. Yeah, there's a bunch of those playlists on Spotify. It's like peaceful piano Christmas music. And then I think it's like the day after Halloween, Pluto TV has these 3 different channels that are like different variations of the Yule log that have nice little, instrumental only Christmas soundtracks. I listen to those a lot.
Mark W says, wow, we only got to do concerts. We didn't get to do the whole pageant. So, sorry, Mark.
Oh, yeah. I should mention that the pageant began with a concert, and it was just this very like churchy experience where we would all hold candles, and there was a big pipe organ, and then singers and the whole bit. Then we do the pageant, and then we'd all get a candy cane at the end.
Oh, well, you got to get paid. So, so hi, Brian, longtime listener from the beginning. When do you start planning and researching episodes for the new season? Is there take a break? Is there a break following the season, or are you right back at it?
I usually take January off, and then I get right back into it. And it's not because it actually takes me that long. It's because, this is my hobby, so I kind of let it take me that long. So, I kind of do it in phases. Like first I kind of, think of the ones that I want to do this year and then try to find experts. That can be the longest thing. It's like finding the right person to talk to and then scheduling with them and then actually doing the interview. After that, it's really just piecing everything together. This year, actually, just because I feel like I'm probably going to be busy with the book coming out, I wanted to make sure things were done very, very early. So all of my stuff is basically ready to go and has been since July.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
A procrastinator like me at this point, where I'm just trying to write scripts and edit and everything together at the same time and trying to get it all out before the end of the year. I'm good for you planning wise. I need to take that I need to work on that better. That's definitely something I need to do. So, well, let's talk about your number 6. So number 7 is Christmas pageant. Number 6 is giving thanks.
Yeah, so this was actually a thing that we would do at my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, where we would all go around the room and talk about what we were thankful for. And even though everyone said the same thing every year, and no one said anything surprising. It was, my grandmother would always say she's thankful for family. My grandfather, World War II vet, would always say he's proud to be an American. And, all the kids would just say whatever kids say. But it's just like, I can't imagine Christmas without having that core memory of just all of us. And there were a lot of us. And it would take a while for all of us to go around the room and say what we were thankful for. So that's something that we do at our house now. And I just think it's a nice way to celebrate.
Yeah, I'm not sure my family gets into sharing all that information. We've kind of just, my dad being a minister, we kind of by the time we were celebrating Christmas, the last thing we were doing is just sort of like talking about things and sharing things. It's more of open some gifts and just relax because, my dad worked for weeks and weeks up into up into the holiday. So I think by then he was done, at least for now. But no, I mean, obviously you want to give thanks to what you have, and and obviously share that with people as much as you can. So, Matthew says, guys, what's the most memorable Christmas gift you ever given and received? I'm going to hold my answer because that's part of my tradition that's in there. So I'll let you take this one, Brian.
I don't know if there's a best I've ever given. I mean, there probably is, but you'd have to ask the person who received it. For the best one I've ever gotten, this was one. It was a magic set that came from Service Merchandise, which I think was a New England-based retail chain, and it was just one of those classic kids sets of magic tricks, But I wanted it really, really badly. And that Christmas, I had opened up all my presents, and there was one present left. And it was not the size and shape of the magic box. And so I opened up my present, and I forget what it was, but it wasn't the thing that I wanted. And I was so disappointed. And I was disappointed basically for the whole year. And then the next Christmas, I finally got it. So it was this whole wish fulfillment that was more than a year in the making. And I loved that thing and would do magic shows for my family and everyone in my neighborhood. And when my mom sold the house that I grew up in, and this was like in the early 2000s, that magic set was still up in the attic. And I took it out and did one more magic show with it. And then we said goodbye to it forever. So certainly the one that I remember getting the most and that I remember feeling the most joy to receive and that I kept for the longest. So I think those are the criteria by which I would judge that the best Christmas gift I ever got.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can. I'll tell you the one that I got. The best I given. I'll hold on to that. But the best I ever got was, and I've talked about this before. But do you remember laser tag from the '80s?
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah. So laser tag with a Z. They released these. They had the guns. They got I have two brothers, so we all received the gun and the chest sensor, and we all got our batteries. And we had the most epic laser tag fight. Then the batteries died about half an hour later, and of course, back in the '80s, batteries were super expensive. They're still expensive, but back in the '80s, it was very expensive. And these things take 6 double A's for 6 to 8 for a gun, and then you had to have the what was it? I guess it was the square battery. What's that one? It's the
9-volt.
9-volt, yeah, the 9-volt battery, and the chest sensor. So that's that's an expensive battery purchase. So I don't think we ever had all of us had batteries at the same time. We would steal them out of the remote control or wherever else had batteries, then try to play. But that first time we ever played laser tag together was amazing. It was probably the best battle ever. So that was my favorite gift as a kid. I mean, obviously I got lots of good stuff, Star Wars things and everything. We're both childs of the '80s, so I'm sure what you got and what I got is very similar. So, cool. All right. So number 6. Hold on. And Christmas cousin superfan Lee is here. Hey, Lee.
Hey.
Number 5. Christmas piñata.
Yeah, the Christmas piñata. So anyone who can see the picture, I'm the one in the middle with my arms raised in a V for victory there. That piñata that you see up there, my mom would make every year. She would blow up a balloon and cover it with paper mache and then pop the balloon and fill it with stuff. And we would hang it from the rafters in our garage. That's where we are right now. And all the neighborhood kids and cousins or whatever would come over and we would break the piñata. And I think the reason it wasn't even the piñata so much, but just like that's like the kind of stuff that my mom would do. She was really crafty. She liked making stuff. She liked just making Christmas this very immersive experience for us. So it's more, I think it's one of my favorite traditions because it reminds me of like the way that my mom celebrated with us and for us, that I try to do now for my own kid. But yeah, the Christmas piñata was pretty awesome. We did it every year.
Was there a history to that, or because...
No, I think we just like piñatas. So she decided to make one for us.
What kind of candy would you put in there?
It was just like that stuff that you would, like the big bags that would just be random. There was this kind of candy. I think it was just from the 80s. But it was like these caramels that like sometimes they'd be like raspberry flavored. I think it was called something like Dairy Milk. That was like the name of these little caramels. They had like a foil wrapper. They were almost like the size of Tootsie Rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember those the most because I love those things.
Are those the ones with like the white center or something in it?
They could. Some of them did have that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know what you're thinking. So no, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever hit a pinata for Christmas, but it sounds fun. So this one here is if the picture that we're looking at is a picture of Santa, was it always the same pinata every year? Or was
it was always someone's head, right? Because like it was just like the balloon. I think there might have been snowmen. I mean, honestly, this was I'm looking at this picture now. What am I, like 5 or 6 in that? So I don't really have too many memories of ones that might have come before that, but I think it was usually just something like this, either Frosty or an elf or Santa.
Very cool. No, I like it. So you would have all the neighbor kids come over too,
Yeah. So I think, let's see, I'm looking at this picture now. I see my cousin, my brother, one of my brothers, another cousin, a couple of neighborhood kids. Yeah, pretty good mix of just like family and neighborhood kids. And this is what we're looking at right now. That's like not even like a quarter of the neighborhood kids. They were just like hundreds of us.
Cool. Now I kind of want to make pinatas for stockings. So that'd be kind of cool. Do you make a pinata for your kid now, or will you?
I do. It's the thing is we live out here in California, so we're not really with my family every year for Christmas. They live back in Massachusetts. We were making the Christmas pinata once all of us started having kids, and so we would do that at my brother's house every year. We've done the pinata. It's just it doesn't hit the same, right? When we don't have like 1,000 kids around to do it. But now that he's in California, they call it TK, the transitional kindergarten. Maybe we'll bring it back with all of his buddies.
That's cool. All right. So number 4, gingerbread demolition.
Yeah, well, this is another testament to my mom. She would make a handmade Christmas gingerbread house every year. She'd bake the dough and put it together and decorate it and all that. And we would all decorate it with her. But the rule was we could not touch it until Christmas morning, until all of the presents were unwrapped. After Christmas morning was done, we could all, seize on the gingerbread house. So all 5 of us, it was just sort of like, if you've ever seen, if you throw like some crumbs on the ground, like all these pigeons, just like descend on it and just like destroy it. It was like that, right? Like just like, when Cookie Monster eats a cookie and like the crumbs are flying all over the place. And that was basically our Christmas breakfast. We would just like mow that thing down. And then my mom would try to get us to eat something somewhat nutritious, but we were all just like amped up from opening all our gifts and then just all high on gingerbread.
That's the one thing I never got. My mom tried to do that too. It was like, try to make sure you eat something good on Christmas and stuff. Like, why? I never understood that. Like she always made this giant turkey dinner. We always had to sit and eat. It's like the last thing you want to do when you're a kid is eat dinner, especially because it's just like now as an adult, I'm like, yeah, let's go eat. I want to eat all the time. But when I was a kid, my mom always just was like, make sure you eat something good. Don't eat junk, blah, blah. It's Christmas. One day a year. So this sounds fun. When would she make the gingerbread house?
That's a good question. Probably sometime after Thanksgiving. I mean, the thing is, like, it was really stale by the time.
That's what I'm about to get to.
And the thing is, we probably wanted more like the stuff that was stuck on it, So if you break off a big piece and it's got like a bunch of caramels and M&Ms stuck to it, it's just like this like crazy cookie with just a million things on it. And the thing is, when I make a gingerbread house now, I assemble it with royal icing, making it like the traditional way with the confectioner's sugar. She would just use vanilla cake frosting. And that stuff tasted so gross. It was all like gummy and weird by the time Christmas rolled around, but we just did not care.
Well, when you're a kid, you sometimes don't. You see candy, and that's really all you want. So, no, that's fascinating. My parents my mom would make a gingerbread house. I honestly, I've never had the desire to ever make one. Sounds like a big pain in the butt. But I do remember her making one over the few years. And of course we weren't allowed to touch it. And then, she was like, well, it's gross, it's old, we'll throw it away, and then we never got to destroy it. That sounds fun though as a kid, destroying it. I don't know if I'd eat it, but destroying it always is fun. So
my son gets to do it now. I make my own every year, just like hers. I use the same recipe too. She kept the same recipe and sent it to me. It's not as hard as you might think, and it doesn't. I mean, yeah, it just tastes like a stale cookie, which is it's literally what it is. But that'll do sometimes.
That's cool. All right, number 3. Piling into the station wagon to see the Christmas lights.
And the picture of the station wagon we're looking at, that is a 1978 Chevrolet Caprice Classic. That's the kind of station wagon my family had. And I maintain to this very day, that is the best automobile that you could. I don't know why they don't make them anymore. Has a roof rack, a trailer hitch, big not bucket seats, bench seats. The back seat can either become a flatbed or it can reverse. You can fit like 15 people in those. I love those. We would take them to the drive-in and put the backs down, and we could all sleep in our sleeping bags. But then when it came to Christmas, we could all pile in, and it was a thing. There was, always that one street in the town that had all the Christmas lights. There was a time when remember those glasses you put on, so when you look at Christmas lights, it makes you see little halos. But that's just some of my best Christmas memories. The simplest stuff, just like riding around with a thermos full of hot chocolate on a cold New England night, So it's like sometimes the window would be open because back in those days, both of my parents smoked. But yeah, I know, like just feel like hot boxing that, right, with a bunch of kids. But there's always something about like when the car is warm inside, but that it's cold outside. You can sort of feel how cold it is, which makes you appreciate how warm you are. It just adds to it somehow. So yeah, like I love driving around looking at Christmas lights now. The neighborhood that I live in here in San Jose is known all over the Bay Area for how crazy it goes for Christmas. So people come from all over. I take my son to go look at them, but God, I wish I could do it in a station wagon. I wish I could rent one of those just so I could drive around in a wagon to look at Christmas lights.
I was going to ask you, have you ever looked into buying one?
Yes, many times. My wife won't let me. Well, I mean, they are gas guzzlers. They get like 2 miles to the gallon, but oh my gosh, they are wonderful.
Yeah. Now, you said you had 5 brothers, right?
I'm one of 5. Yeah, I
one
have
of 5.
3 brothers and a sister.
Okay. And so having this car makes a lot of sense in the 80s. I had 2 brothers, and we also had a grandmother that lived with us and my mom and dad, and they stuck us in this tiny little car, and we had to go everywhere where, this is when it was bench seats in the front. So my little brother could sit in between my parents, and then my brother and myself and my grandmother all crunched in the back, I would have killed for this car back in the day. That would have been awesome. But yeah, I mean, I still love to go look at lights. I think that's always a fun thing to do. Right now it's in my neighborhood. I think they go more wild for Halloween, but it's still the same thing. You go around, you look at the decorations and everything. Yeah, I mean, I still do it. I worked in my local area. I was part of a group that did a lighting contest to get people to do that, and we got prizes and stuff. And so it's fun, and I love driving around and looking at the lights, especially when they're really well done. So
yeah. Yep. And like we'd have the radio on, and it's just different now just because everyone does satellite or puts on a Spotify playlist. But there's something about like hearing the announcer and hearing the little commercials that are all, they're festive in their own way. It just adds to the experience.
Yeah. So Mark W. says, we always went out on Christmas Eve to look at the lights. We had a house at old store window displays, and the line would be a mile long. So yeah, no, I mean, I think it's still a tradition. I don't know. I'd love to know how big it is today compared to back in the 80s and maybe early 90s, because that was a big thing. But I hope people are still doing it. I really do, especially because some of them get so elaborate. Whenever I see, and there's places in California, I always see it put on these elaborate giant shows, and I'm just like, I'd love to go see that. That would be awesome. So cool. All right. Number 3 is that, and number 2 is gift wrap snowball fight.
Yeah, this was a thing over at my grandparents' house where, we did Christmas morning at home, and then we would go to my grandparents' house, and then we would do you get all the gifts from the aunts and uncles and exchange with grandparents. And so that was even bigger than Christmas morning, because there were 5 of us when we went over to my grandparents' house. It's like, cousins and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. So by the time everyone's unwrapped their gifts, like the floor is just this wasteland of wrapping paper. And I don't know who started it. It might have been my uncle, who just bunched it all up and just started throwing it at people. And like it turned into a snowball fight. And then that just became a thing that we did every year. Yeah, and it's just like again, I cannot think of my childhood Christmases without that memory coming up of the indoor snowball fights.
Yeah, but I think I don't know if my brothers and I ever threw the wrapping paper at each other. I'm sure we did. We did everything that was probably annoyed my mom. But the one thing I always remember is the tubes, the empty tubes. My mom would let us have those, and those became lightsabers, obviously, because that's a safe way to hit each other without getting hurt. No, that sounds a lot of fun. Do you still do that?
No, I don't know. I think I worry about doing that with my son, because then because I realize now, you get a kid all wound up, then you're the one who has to deal with that later on. And I kind of get now the way that my parents were acting when my uncle would get us all riled up, because it's like, oh, great. Now they're the ones who have to deal with it. So I don't know. We might try it, but yeah, it could have unintended consequences.
Leave it to an uncle to be the bad influence. Exactly. My kid is my girl is 17 years old now, so okay. I get to be a bad influence to my younger nephews. And it drives my brother nuts. I'm the bad influence. I'm the bad uncle, but I'm also the fun uncle. So, I get to get them all wound up, and then my brother gets mad at me. So, Mark says outdoor lights have definitely dropped off here lately. So that's sad. I hope that comes back. But all right. So all of your traditions. This is number 2, but your top tradition, number 1. Is going to my grandparents' house.
Yeah, and so that is a picture of my grandparents' house at Christmas time. And sadly, as far as I know, that is the only existing picture that any of us have of Christmas at my grandparents' house. I'm not even in it. That's my uncle, and I don't even know who that guy on the left is. Probably maybe my other uncle, although that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I have so many memories of Christmas, but strangely, very few specific, strong memories of Christmas mornings growing up, at my house. I'm sure I remember unwrapping gifts or whatever, but when I think of Christmas, what it used to be like when I was little, the first things that come to mind are everyone over at my grandparents' house. And so there's my grandfather right there, just waving. And their place was tiny. I can't even tell you. When there were 3 bedrooms, and my mom was one of 6 kids. They slept 2 to a bed. The girls slept 2 to a bed in these bunk beds. The boys had their own room, and my grandparents had their own room that was too small for a bed that they could both sleep in. My grandfather slept on the floor. And it was just this really, really small old house. And it was drafty, and it was heated by a fireplace. And so, as humble and kind of strange, honestly, as it was just some of my best memories took place in that house.
Yeah. So how many people would you fit into that house on Christmas Day?
I'm trying to think, all of my mom's, so 6 of them, plus my 2 grandparents, plus all 5 of us. And then there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other cousins. And then just people from the neighborhood. So at any given time, I mean, we're talking at least 20 people were packed in there.
Wow. That's crazy. And it's got the nice 80s paneling or 70s paneling in the back. So that's always a big benefit. Yeah. No, you mentioned, you don't have a lot of pictures, and we don't either. I think mostly because it was expensive to get pictures developed. So my mom, maybe took one or two. We have more pictures of Christmas foods than we do of us opening gifts or anything. For some reason, my mom felt it was very important to take a picture of the food that she made. Maybe because it took her forever to make. I don't know. But there's very few pictures of us opening a gift or even showing off our gift. I probably can count 5 pictures of Christmas out of all the years. And that's kind of sad, because I don't have any of that stuff. My daughter has full videos and photos and probably hours of footage that she could watch over and over again because, that everybody had a phone on their camera at the time. So, that's really sad though, that this is like really your only one, but at least you have the memory to remember that. We never went. The good thing about Christmas is that everyone came to us. So my grandparents would come to visit us and we didn't have to go anywhere. I don't know if and now as with my family, I have my wife's family, I have my parents. So we have to split. We have to have our Christmas morning and then we have to travel all over to go visit people. And truthfully, that has taken away from my enjoyment of the holiday. I love seeing everybody, but we could maybe split it up over Christmas Eve, maybe make it a little bit easier, but it changes. Everything changes over the years. So
all of us, my grandparents live like 10 minutes down the road from us. But as an adult, like my wife is from New York, I'm from Massachusetts, and we would either have to choose which state we were going to be celebrating in that year, or there was one time where we did Christmas morning in Massachusetts and then drove to New York for Christmas dinner. And it was the Christmas after that we said, enough of that. We're just going to do what we want. And so we went to the Bahamas for Christmas. And that was one of my most memorable Christmases. We woke up and rode horses on the beach on Christmas morning in the Bahamas and had a nice Caribbean Christmas. It was really cool.
Mark says, yes, my grandmother lived a block away and the majority of Christmas Day was spent there. So I think that's grandma's house is always, there's a reason why there's a Christmas song about it. But you mentioned going to the Bahamas. I'm not sure I would enjoy going away on vacation during Christmas. I've never done it. I've always been, we're at my parents' house, or at our house for Christmas. So what made you decide to go to the Bahamas?
I think it was we've just wanted to go to the Bahamas for a while. And it was really, like we were just tired of, if we spent the holiday in Massachusetts, it would upset the New York contingent and vice versa. We're like, how about we just upset everyone equally and just do what we want to do? And it wasn't even necessarily that we wanted to go to the Bahamas. We just wanted a Christmas where we weren't feeling that kind of stress. And it is really cool. The day after Christmas is when they really, really celebrate. So that's, Boxing Day or St. Stephen's Day. They have their own regional celebration called Junkanoo, which is, if you can imagine, like Christmas meets Mardi Gras. It's this very like outdoors thing with a parade and a big thing on the beach. So it's really cool.
Oh, cool. Great. Well, those are your 7 traditions that you remembered. I have 7 that I want to go through, and I want to get your thoughts on them. So number 7 for me, decorating the tree the weekend after Thanksgiving, or basically the Thanksgiving Day weekend. So I have a wife who says that Christmas is not celebrated, or cannot be up until after Thanksgiving. So I have reluctantly said, okay, we have to all make concessions to things. And so she's like, the day after Thanksgiving, go wild. So cool. So the day after Thanksgiving, or actually the whole weekend after Thanksgiving, is because it takes a whole weekend to decorate my house. The first thing I always do is put the tree up. And then, as you can see, I pull out all of the Hallmark ornaments that I have collected over the years. And this is actually an older photo. I have probably twice as many now. Wow. But that's my favorite thing to do. That whole weekend, we just decorate the house. We have to clean the house the week before, which sucks because you got to get it prepped, and you got to move furniture around because we have a small house. I live in a small house, but and so you have to move things around so you can make room for the 5 trees that we have now. So But yeah, I love decorating. I love watching movies while in the background as I do that. That's my favorite thing to do. What about you?
Yeah, we there was a time where I would put the Christmas tree up the day after Halloween. But my son's birthday is in early November, and so now that's the demarcation point. It can't go up before his birthday, just because whatever it would confuse him, and I think my wife was kind of sick of having the Christmas tree up too long. But I put mine up usually before Thanksgiving, so sometime between early November and Thanksgiving. But yeah, and the thing is, I usually do it after my wife and son go to sleep. So I'll just, because I just work better at night when everyone else is sleeping. So they go to sleep and they wake up the next morning and the tree's there ready to be decorated.
Yeah, I'm the only one who does the Hallmark ornaments. My wife cannot handle unboxing every single one and pulling them out. And my kid used to help me when she was little, but now the last thing she wants to do is do this. They do everything else, but yeah, the Hallmark trees are mine. I get to do them. So, so number 7 is that, and we got a comment from Mark. Black Friday night was always our tradition growing up. Now it's more like a Halloween night. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. So number 6, watching a movie while I wrap gifts. So usually typically a week before Christmas is when I decide, okay, I'm going to wrap gifts. And I have a movie that I watch every year. It's an awful movie. I've talked about it a number of times. Most people don't know it, but it's called Christmas Every Day. It's a Family Channel movie from 1996, I believe. It's awful, but it was something that I remember when I first I lived on my own, and I was dating my wife at the time, and I had gifts to wrap, and I started wrapping them, and was flipping through the channel, and this movie was on, and I was watching the movie, and I was wrapping, and I was like, oh, that was fun. And then when I got a copy of it, because I did get a copy of it, now this is the first thing I put in. Every time I wrap gifts, I like watching it. It's just in the background. It's the only time I watch this movie. It's not great, but it's one of those movies that's just entertainment. So it's just pure entertainment. So I don't know if do you have movies like that you have to watch?
It's more like the cartoon specials from the 80s or 70s that I grew up with, and even I like now trying to find obscure ones that I've never seen before. And I talk about this on my podcast a lot. Like I just in general don't watch a lot of movies. There's just like whatever movie center you have in your brain, like I lack. Like I just don't, and especially with Christmas movies, like I kind of wish there were some that I like, but I just find most of them just pretty forgettable and, just not something I want to spend time watching. And it's just because there's become such a pervasive part of Christmas, and people always ask, oh, what's your favorite movie? And have you seen this one or that one? Whenever that debate comes up about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen it. I probably never will. I don't want to see it. So yeah, Christmas movies aren't really a big thing for me, but for whatever reason, those old, the Cabbage Patch Kids First Christmas or the Glow Friends Save Christmas, I'll watch those all day long.
Okay. Well, if you ever are interested, this is on YouTube. It's free. Okay. Christmas Every Day. It's a guilty pleasure. That's the word I was looking for. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. So number 5, sushi for Christmas Eve. So, when I grew up, my mom would always she would make crackers and all sorts of snacks and stuff for Christmas Eve. So we never really had dinner because my dad always had to get ready for service and everything. So he was always off and doing those things. And so my mom just said, I'm just going to put out snacks and you guys can have that. So we never really did that. And then when I got married, my wife was like, oh, we should have a nice dinner and stuff. So one year I said, well, I'm going to try to make the Feast of the Seven Fishes. So I spent all day making different seafood dishes, and it was so expensive and it was so much work. And, seafood does not keep after about 2 days, so if you make a ton of it, you better be prepared to eat seafood for a few days. it was miserable. I hated it, and I was like, I would love it if someone made that for me, and I didn't have to just store it in my fridge or eat leftovers or have to cook it all. But I then came to the idea, it's like, why don't we just order sushi? Get 7 different sushi types. And my daughter, who loves sushi, said yes. So for the past 5 or 6 years now, for Christmas Eve dinner, we order sushi. And because, they're open, they're ready to, to sell. So, this was our meal, I think, last year that we had. I order a variety of different rolls, and we have like 7 or 8 different seafoods that are on there, and I love it. It's a nice tradition that I started with my kid and my daughter, my wife. I mean, yeah.
Christmas Eve dinner for me has never been like a thing. When we went over to my grandparents' house, it was always just like appetizers. It was not like dinner. And then even as an adult, like I don't even. Sometimes we go for Chinese food, but it's more like now that I have a kid of my own, it's really just like whatever is going to get us, get him to bed quickest. So we don't really dare go out and do anything. That's a good idea, though, sushi on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I mean, especially if my kid just would, if she would go eat sushi every day if she could, So I always have to explain to her it's expensive. That's why we don't go as often. But for Christmas Eve, we go all out. So I love it here. I love it. It's like I said, we didn't have a big meal either. It was always Christmas Day was the big meal, but now for us, a big sushi dinner is really great. Mark says pizza here, usually Little Caesars, nice. Except for the one year we did KFC instead.
Very Japanese of you. Yeah.
Cool. So number 5 is sushi for Christmas Eve. Number 4, watching A Christmas Story only on Christmas Eve. Now, this is my living room. As you can see, it is decorated to high hell. This is on Christmas morning. I never watch I love A Christmas Story. I've seen it probably hundreds of times, but I like to save it for the marathon. I'll put the marathon on, and then I don't have cable anymore, so now I just stream it from my computer. But we just have it play over and over all day, all evening, all morning. So it's always on. And so we sit and we watch A Christmas Story. It's the only time I watch it. It makes it special to watch it that one time. And now you've already said you don't really watch Christmas movies, but I imagine A Christmas Story was one you have seen and
I have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember when it came out. This was, I forget the year it was, but I remember I think it was maybe like 4th grade or something. And my mom wouldn't let me go see it at the theater. And it was because she had heard about the fight scene between Ralphie and Scott Farkas. But then, so I think maybe the first time I saw it was more because I knew that I was, rebelling. It was an act of rebellion to watch it. And yeah, I've seen it several times in my life, but it's not the kind of movie that, like, I think now I'm like, okay, if I see it once every 5 years or so, that'll suit me fine.
Yeah, it's always a big movie for me. It's and Brendan here says for me it's A Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve. So Brandon, we truth be told, we did the same thing. So we watch when we did have cable, we would watch A Christmas Story at 8:00. It would start, be over by 10. NBC is showing It's a Wonderful Life from 8 to 11 because they throw in a ton of commercials. So we would watch the last hour of It's a Wonderful Life and then go to bed on Christmas Eve. That was always my thing. But I can watch It's a Wonderful Life all year long. So like that's one of my movies that I'll do all the time.
There was a radio show back in the day called like the Lux Radio Hour. It was produced by Lux Soap. And they did an audio drama version of that included the original cast with Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart and all that. And for my money, that is a better telling of that story than the movie is. I listened to that over and over again. I have it on cassette. And I still have a cassette player. So I listened to that more than I watched the movie.
Yeah, no, I've listened to that. That's actually something. It's funny because I do have a bunch of radio dramas. I have that one. It's not Christmas related, but I have the Star Wars radio dramas that I like to
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to. I
had that on
love all
8-track.
that stuff. Yeah, oh yeah, you got that on 8-track. Wow, we're old, man. But yeah, no, I do enjoy it. I there's something more about the movie just to watch it, but like you said, you're not as much into movies as I am. But yeah, so this is my living room. You know, it's pretty packed. This is Christmas Eve, so all the presents and everything are out. So that's why it looks even more of a mess than it normally is. But yeah, so that's what I do on Christmas Eve. Save a Christmas story. Number 3, Christmas shopping on Black Friday. And I know a lot of people hate this. I like to start my Christmas shopping the day after Thanksgiving. I'm not one of those people that would get up at like 4 a.m. to get there at 6 or go out the night of. I wake up, have breakfast, and then maybe head out around 10 or 11, maybe, normal time. And by then it's a normal shopping day at the most. But there is something I really enjoy about going to the mall. It's full of Christmas stuff. I tend to buy things for myself more than anybody else. But unless I have something in mind that I want, I don't see the big fights that happen typically on Black Friday. But I enjoy watching the videos of those because, just seeing how people react to each other. But yeah, so I actually enjoy going to a mall to shop for Christmas.
I enjoy being somewhere physical for shopping. And part of it is because, you usually make a day of it with somebody else, and there's more to it than just the shopping part. You go get lunch afterward or something like that. But there's also the element of serendipity, the element of like, okay, I'm going because I'm trying to find like this perfume for my mom or whatever. But along the way, something catches your eye, like in a way that it wouldn't by just like whatever the algorithm on Amazon is serving up to you as suggested gift ideas. I feel like I do a lot of online shopping because that's what most of us do nowadays. But sometimes that just feels too much like point, click, take my money. Like it takes a lot of the personal experience out of it.
Yeah. Yep. It's not the same since COVID, but I still go out right after the stores open. So yeah, I mean, my daughter and I used to do a thing where, my wife always has to work on Black Friday for where she works at. But so in the morning, my daughter and I would go get a bagel at the bagel place we like. We do some shopping, and then I'd take her to go get McDonald's. It's one of the few times we ever go to McDonald's. And so she always she always looks forward to it, and she still does. She'll probably want to go out again. So it's a nice little tradition. Whether or not we buy anything a lot, or if it's really worth it. It's still something that we do, and then we get home, and that's when we start decorating for Christmas. So
nice. That's awesome.
So, all right. So number 3, Christmas shopping on Black Friday. Number 2, Christmas Con. So this is a rather new tradition. So in 2019, they started putting on Christmas Con in New Jersey. It was a little shady at first because I saw on Facebook that there's this event for Christmas Con. It's never had one before. But they started announcing all of these Hallmark celebrities. And I'm a huge Hallmark nerd for Christmas movies. And I was like, I can meet Lacey Chabert. I can meet Alicia Witt. I'm like, yes, please. So I bought a ticket. I booked a hotel room, and I said, well, let's see the legitimate of this. And it was a great time. It was one of my favorite things to do in December. My wife and kid do not care for Hallmark movies, so I can go by myself. I go, and I have met a whole bunch of people that watch the channel now that know who I am, which is kind of cool. It's amazing time. I have been there for every year except for the COVID year. But yeah, I'm going again in December. I have met quite a few Hallmark celebrities. I have the sign behind me is my Hallmark sign that I have, and I have them sign that. So now all their autographs are on there. And believe it or not, there's a few that I have yet to meet. it's getting to the point where they better start bringing some newer celebrities, because a lot of the same ones every year. But yeah, 2019. This is a picture of me and Lacey Chabert. It was a lot of fun. I know you're not in the Hallmark movies, huh?
You were there in 2019?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I was there with the guys from Deck the Hallmark, Tim Babb, Joanna from Christmas TV History, and Alonso Duralde. I actually, that first night, led the game of Christmas trivia from the stage. Like, they actually brought me in as like a person who was part of the podcast. I sat on a panel and all that. And then never went back. It just, again, like I'm not really part of that side of Christmas, the Hallmark movie stuff. It was fun to go that one year, but then haven't returned.
Yeah, no, well, I missed you, because I did. That's the first time I met the Hallmark guys. I met Alonzo that weekend, but yeah, no, it's a fun time. Like I said, I'm going again. Did you have fun with it at least?
It was fun, yeah. It was, because I live in California, so I had to, flying out to New Jersey and like all that was kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, it was mostly because I was there like as like the media. We were able to go backstage, and so Tim and I actually just hung out a lot backstage, and like we actually got to meet like Lacey and all those people like back there. At first we were in that green room, and then they moved us to another one because that's where those people had their makeup done and were just resting and all that. But yeah, I mean, overall it was fun. But then I really drove home for me that like I'm just not part of that world. I just I don't do the Hallmark movies. I don't have much of an interest in them, so I think that was a one and done for me.
Okay, well. If you ever decide to go back, be a great time to get together. But I understand. So number one Christmas tradition for me is a Secret Santa Christmas tradition. So this is where I'm going to talk about a few things. So I have two brothers. We're all married. We all have a wife. So that's 5 people you got to buy for, or 4, because my wife I already buy stuff for. So that's a lot. And then now we all have kids. And so we said, well, why don't we do a Secret Santa gift exchange? And then my brother, who's always the one kind of creative thinking, said, why don't we do a theme every year as well? So we pick a theme. Everyone writes down a theme, and you pick you put your names in a hat and put a theme, and then you pick the theme and a name, and that's the gift that you have to give somebody. So it's a lot of fun. It's interesting to have something different every year. So this year, this picture you're seeing here is, I don't remember what the theme was. It was probably television or something like that. My brother went to the Lego store and he made me the Brady Bunch Lego set with cousin Oliver there on the corner. So that I loved it, and I still have this. This is one of my favorite things that I ever got. Because it's unique, that's one of the things that is a reoccurring theme is making something. So the greatest gift that I ever got, and I don't have a picture of it because it's got people in it who really don't want their faces on the internet. But the one year we were doing something original and making something, and so I got my brother Mike, and he said, okay, what are you going to make me? I said, I'm going to make you something good. I did make him something good, but I also gave him a gag gift. And this is where it gets weird. But I had at the time I had a really, really long beard. And my brother's a painter, and he goes, your beard would make an amazing paintbrush. I think he was joking, but I'm not sure. So I said, all right. I grew it out, and a few days before Christmas, I shaved it down, and I made a paintbrush out of my beard hair. Okay. It's gross. I know it sounds gross. It's very disgusting. It's a gag gift, but so I made him this paintbrush, and I gave him like I said, I gave him something good. It wasn't just this. And he opened the gift, and he's like, "Oh, this is a weird paintbrush," and he goes, and he like looks at me, and I'm like. Goes, oh my gosh. And everybody was disgusted with it. And he's like, he just dropped it. And I was like, you said that my beard would make an amazing paintbrush. And he says, I was just joking. I'm like, well, you have a paintbrush now. So to me, that is the ultimate gag gift that I ever gave. I've given nicer things and stuff, obviously, but that's the opportunity that I have with my brothers and my sister-in-laws, is that we get to like sort of josh them, give them to have fun with it, make it unique. It's nothing to be taken seriously. I have received a number of weird gifts. I always said that, my favorite food is having a big giant hoagie or submarine sandwich, because apparently hoagie is more of an Eastern thing. So my sister-in-law one year made me a hoagie Christmas morning, and she just handed me this giant hoagie. And of course I had to eat it, because a hoagie only lasts for like a day or two, and then it's so good. But is it that our Secret Santa thing is the thing I look forward to the most every year?
Yeah, because you have to, it has to be a personal gift, or at least it's not worth doing if it isn't. And I'm in the same boat, just all these siblings. Like, what do you get one another? We used to do a thing where we would draw names, and it wasn't quite Secret Santa. It was just more like assigning who's going to buy who something. And we'd all just get each other the same Starbucks gift cards. We were like passing money around in a circle. And it got to a point where I told everyone, like, do you know what? This is when I was still living in Massachusetts. You know what I want for Christmas is, like, next time it snows, you come over and shovel my driveway. It won't cost you a thing. And it would be like the best gift I ever got. Because, like, yeah, what are you going to get me? Like some scented candle, like those kinds of things. They tend to have this samey. So something like this that keeps it creative and makes it personal is totally the way to go.
Yeah. So those are our Christmas traditions. Everybody obviously has their own unique ones. Mine got a little weird. Yours got a little bit more sentimental, but that's okay. I mean, that's what Christmas traditions are supposed to be. So, Brian, this has been a lot of fun. I've had a good time talking with you. I want everybody to know that you can definitely get both of his books. They're available now. Go ahead and grab them from the new one's out, right?
Yep. Came out on the 30th. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, go pick up his new book. Go check that out. I have to go get the new book yet. I apologize. I did not get it beforehand. But let's go back there. So is there anything else that you want to promote?
I'll promote my friend Alonzo's new book, Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. That's been out for a while. This is the second edition of this book. It's just a really cool, if you're wondering about the stories behind Christmas movies or trying to think of a Christmas movie to watch, that's just a really good resource for that. And he's a really good writer. I mean, he's a film critic, so he's used to writing. He's definitely got a voice for that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But no, the new season will start on Halloween. So if anyone is not subscribed to the podcast, it's not hard to do on your favorite podcast platform. And you can reach out to me anytime, either on social or email me, christmaspastpodcast@gmail.com. Be happy to hear what you have going on this year.
Cool. And I'll bring this up. I'm not going to announce exactly what it is, but Brian and I are working on a video together that we are hoping to put out by November. So look forward to that. You'll see more information on that. I got a lot of work I got to get started soon. So we're hoping to have a collaborative video out. It should be a lot of fun. A couple other things for me to promote. If you have not watched it, my latest video is the best Christmas pageant ever. I kind of compare the different versions of from the 1983 television movie to the new movie, and how they compare, and how the new movie actually improves upon the story that the writer who wrote the original book, she also wrote the screenplay for the television version. But this new version enhances the movie and the story so much more, and I really, really enjoyed it. And you've already talked about him, but I talked with Alonzo 2 weeks ago about his book, Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. Alonzo's a lot of fun. His new book is great. It is just a updated version of his first 2010 one, but definitely check his book out and go get that. Next week, I am talking with a few people, including Scott from Christmas Morning Podcast. We're going to talk about Christmas commercials round 2. We already did a live broadcast a few months ago where we watched some commercials and commented on them. We're going to do the same again. What commercials? I don't know yet because he hasn't sent me them, but hopefully we'll have some cool ones, and we'll be checking that out. So that's next Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And I am in the middle of editing the final episode for the 1980s Year in Christmas, 1980. This was the hardest one to do because, believe it or not, the farther back you go, the harder it is to find footage for things. So this one was a lot of research and a lot of work, a lot more complicated than any of the other ones. I'm hoping it will be out by the end of the week or early next week. We'll see. It just depends on how fast I can edit. But this is going to be a fun one. 1981 had really nothing but this one has a ton of stuff. So look for that soon. And then after that, everyone keeps asking. Yes, I am moving on to 1990, starting at the end of November, and I'm going to count up through the 90s. So 1990 will be coming out in late November. So,
Sounds
anyways,
awesome.
Yep. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for all those who commented. Make sure you pick up Brian's books. Listen to his podcast starting in end of October, and keep watching my videos. And if you have any suggestions on things you'd like to see, feel free to reach out to me. I'm open to hearing all your ideas and what people would love for me to see. So anyways, everyone have a good rest of your weekend. And remember, I'm the Christmas Aficionado. Stay off the night list.